but they rebelled and vexed his Holy Spirit. Therefore he was turned to be their enemy, and he fought against them. Then he remembered the days of old, Moses and his people saying, where is he that brought them up out of the sea with the shepherd of his flock? Where is he that put his Holy Spirit in him, that led them by the right hand of Moses?
Hello, good morning. Welcome to Line by Line Bible Studies. We're continuing today in the book of Proverbs, chapter 23. Let's begin reading a little bit before where we're going to begin talking, just because I want to roll into it. Let's start with verse 23. Buy the truth and sell it not, also wisdom and instruction and understanding. The father of the righteous shall greatly rejoice, and he that begetteth a wise child shall have joy of him. Thy father and thy mother shall be glad, and she that bare thee shall rejoice. My son, give me thine heart, and let thine eyes observe my ways. For a whore is a deep ditch, and a strange woman is a narrow pit. She also lieth in wait as for prey, and increaseth the transgressors among men. Who hath woe? Who hath sorrow? Who hath contentions? Who hath babbling? Who hath wounds without cause? Who hath redness of eyes? They that tarry long at the wine, they that go and seek mixed wine. They that go to seek mixed wine. Look not thou upon the wine when it is red, when it giveth his color in the cup, when it moveth itself aright. At the last it biteth like a serpent, and it stingeth like an adder. I gotta mute here for a second. There we go. All right. Verse 33. Thine eyes shall behold strange women, and thine heart shall utter perverse things. Yea, thou shalt be as he that lieth down in the midst of the sea, or as he that lieth upon the top of a mast. They have stricken me, shalt thou say, and I was not sick. They have beaten me, and I felt it not. When shall I awake? I will yet seek it again. That's how I think that goes. I will seek it again yet. What does it say? I don't like the way it's worded. I will seek it yet again. I will seek it yet again. Yeah, that is we'll get there in a second. Start off with the whore. The parents thing, I think, is connected somewhat to this because it's part of the parental advice. You know, I talk to my sons and my daughter about their future mate from early times. I begin to talk about it when I first talk to them about sex. Now, for me, that's when they're 12. When they're 12, I have this thing, the alarm that goes off in my brain that tells me that I got to talk to my kid about sex. A couple of them, it was earlier because they had questions. And that's fine. 12 is just like really the last moment. It's really procrastinating to the last moment. So I don't think I'm like particularly great about that. My dad waited, it was way too long. He tried to talk to me about sex when I was 15. And it was way too deep into puberty. It's much easier. You may not be comfortable, but the child is much more comfortable when they're younger, believe it or not. A pubescent child that knows what you're talking about and is not really curious anymore because they figured it out is not the person to talk to about sex. Now, you have other advice to give them, right, that goes beyond just sex. I mean, talk to about, what I'm saying is you may need to talk to them about sex, but it's very difficult. You may not need to tell them about the birds and the bees, but it goes way beyond that. You know, not just the physical action of intercourse and all that. You know, one of my younger kids, at one point when they were like 11 or maybe younger than that, actually, like 10, they were like, where did I come from? And they really had to know it. I'm not going to give them some BS story. I'll tell them how a baby's made. Without getting pornographic about it, obviously. But graphic enough. I mean, explain to them what things are for. It's no big deal. And then you explain to them about marriage. And of course, they've been, that's why I like this thing, observe me with your eyes. Or what did I say? Give me your heart and let your eyes observe me. And when it says give me your heart, I don't think it means like, like something like I don't know, poetic, like some weird poetic, like give me your heart. No, I think it means very, very concretely is apply your heart to understanding what you see. Put your heart to what you see your father doing. You know what I mean? It's like, don't just with eye service, but take it to heart. Give your heart to it. You got to love the Lord God with all your mind, all your heart. And while that is not a technical, while in a materialist sense, like we were like, well, how do I give my heart? That's not the point. The point is about from, that part of you where those innermost feelings come from, whatever that is. I don't care about the part of your brain. I'm talking about you, the heart of you. You probably understand what your heart is better than a doctor understands what your brain is. Okay. And that's true. I think people who study brains would be like, you're right, Paul. You know more what your heart is, though the heart is deceitful above all things. And what is the mind of what's going on is not always obvious, because we will deceive even our own selves. We will lie to ourselves. We have confirmation biases. We have all kinds of things to protect us from the truth. And that's not good. And so you got to open your heart is what, it's like saying, open your heart to me, son. Allow what I'm telling you to enter into it. That's why give me your heart. Let me put into your heart the things that need to be there. And I think part of that, the only way that happens is when you inspire affection. That's why I say you can't just be a terror to your children as a father. And honestly, for the most part, I think we have erred on the other side in our society. We become too permissive. The children I see are not over-disciplined. I mean, we have cases, like I said, there's a lot of people who improperly discipline their kids, which is worse than bad discipline. It is bad discipline, but it's worse than being too light, in my opinion. Like just punishing people willy-nilly. I mean, it's like you're teaching them things that are like when you have the absence of correction, it's a different kind of lesson than when you're being punished for not doing anything wrong. That really messes with your sense of like, okay, how does the world work? Because the thing is, and of course, the outside world always treats you a little different, than your family. Your family's going to be a different kind of experience, of course. Everyone has, but that can be poisonous to you. It can be, on one end, like I said, it can be too permissive for the children, so that they don't get the right idea of like, they don't know how to conduct themselves in society because they've been allowed to just do whatever. And people are like, I hate these kids. Get these brats out of here. And that's what happens. And I do think we do err on the side of permissiveness. Some people err on the side of over-strictitude, if that's a word. I think if it is, I just made it up. If it isn't, I just made it up. And so, along those lines of instructing a child in the ways of love and marriage and sex, it's like, you got to explain to them the peril. And not just horrors are the farthest reaches of female malevolence. I mean, not the worst ever thing necessarily, but what it's saying is like, when you're talking about female malevolence, like that in a way that will not do you any good. Like there's a benevolent side of femininity that I find personified in my wife, or you might find personified in the Bible in the bride of Christ. The woman in the book of Revelation who bears the child and then gets caught up in heaven. The child gets caught up in heaven. She gets chased by the dragon. But there's exemplifications of good wives, and those are in Proverbs, and I think there's even more about that. Isn't it like the last chapter is another one about a good woman? We haven't really gotten. I think we had some stuff on that, but we have also talked about the strange woman, which is not necessarily a foreigner, but a woman who has adopted foreign ways, but specifically and explicitly ungodly foreign ways. She has forsaken her God. She has forsaken the standards of the law. And that plays in with, now, a literal whore, a prostitute, goes without saying, that is, like I said, that is an extreme form of, now I'm not saying that the prostitute herself is an evil person, but a whore itself, the idea of prostitution is, I don't know if I'd call it malevolent femininity. Well, it's toxic. That would be good. It is one of the furthest reaches of toxic femininity, where a woman is selling her sexuality on the open market, or some man is selling it for her and trafficking her, which is a lot more tragic. But it's still a great evil, and any man who uses it is engaging in great evil. Especially, I never felt tempted, and I don't come down hard on people who are. Okay, I've never felt tempted to see a prostitute. The idea of paying for it never occurred to me. Because I thought I was certain I was good looking enough to get a girl on my own. I didn't think I knew it was all in the personality. That was the problem. Whatever. And it never got solved, thank God. I'm glad I never solved that problem. I don't know how to sweep women off their feet and into my bedroom. Good. That's the male Casanova type. Women are actually women are hard. Here's the thing. Good women don't easily get seduced like that by Casanovas. I hope not. Definitely not. Or even by lesser, the women give themselves over to base men. It's like, and they allow themselves to be used. Our women today, they go and they're in high school, they're having sex, they're on the birth control pill. Their so-called Christian parents know about this. It's absurd. It's obscene, actually, what it is. Not absurd, it's obscene. So, an actual prostitute, yeah, but there are lesser levels. Like they say, like the black comedian, I forgot which one. You're wearing a whore's uniform. That's confusing. When you walk around in a whore's uniform, clothing that a prostitute would find a little bit, a prostitute, if maybe 100 years ago, would find what you're wearing, like, insanely provocative. But you're not a whore. You're just a regular girl wearing yoga pants in public with your misshapen bottom for all to see. It's like, that's the thing that gets me, is like, how many of these women are just so out of shape and they wear skin tight clothing? I don't know if they're trying to make me vomit in public or what. Because seriously, cover up your ugly curves. I try to keep myself, I don't want to see your nakedness. And that's what it's your weakness. It's your nakedness, your ugly body. I don't want to see it. I don't want to see a pretty body either, because I don't want to be tempted. You know what I mean? It's like, no, but I say it's just absurd that people who are horribly out of shape will go off and display it for everyone. For me, I don't want it, but it's there. It's a constant thing. I don't know why people wear, like they said, the Europeans think we're weird because we wear workout clothes in public. And in Japan, if you wear that kind of thing to work out, they'll think you're absolutely, they'll think you're a whore, And I counsel my boys to stay clear of whorish girls. Now, they may reform later. That happens. Girls, they may look like they're kind of, they're all kind of going along with the way of the world, and then later on. But you know what? My boys are virgins, and they are. I set my sights on higher things for them. It's like, so those girls, I tell them, no, don't consider those girls. Don't consider them. Maybe once they reform, I guess, you can. But the thing is, here's the thing. It's like, if there's a mismatch, like if a guy's been keeping himself waiting for his wife and she hasn't, it's gonna be hard for him to be particularly pleased in that relationship. You know what I mean? I don't know, or a woman, you've been saving yourself and he's been screwing around with all these different girls. You think that, see, if being celibate, not celibate, what was the word I went? Chaste, whatever. That'll do. That's not the word I was looking for. Chaste. If chastity, which is not the word I like, but that purity, maintaining your innocence, not innocence so much, because you don't have to be innocent to be virgin. That's a particular kind of innocence. But whatever. if that's an important value to you, to me, that's what me. Like, to me, an important value was studying the scriptures, getting to know the scriptures. My wife felt the same. That was the value we both shared very highly. If you've been saving yourself since you were a child for your husband someday, you don't want some guy. I don't advise you falling in love with a guy who hasn't. I don't think it's advisable. It can work, of course, but just go into it. Here's the thing: go into it advisedly, understanding that this is going to be a difficulty. Potentially. Potentially. Forgiveness, the love of God and the blood of Christ cover all the sins in the world. As far as there's nothing that can't be covered in that technically. There are many things that won't. And so I don't know. I just try to advise things to do things. If you want to get things right, you kind of have to go at them thoughtfully. It's like people end up in divorce because they just fall in love with whoever because she's pretty or he's handsome. He's got a good job. He seems like a nice guy. And everyone puts on airs with each other. We pretend to be people we're not when we're first getting. I remember how it was before I met my wife, before I changed the way I was looking at women. And I started to just like ignore how pretty they were. And I just was like, what are you into? Like I'm the one who it's like, cause it's not that I'm like, or you or anybody, like you got to think of yourself as this great prize. You don't have to be. But the thing is, it's got to be you should be of some comparable thing. There's got to be something. And a lot of times people approach dating from especially guys, from a purely attraction. Girls have a different kind of attraction vibe going on, but they don't think deeply about, if I connect with this person, are they really a suitable person that I would even consider marrying? I would never date someone that I would not consider marrying. And I would never date someone that I didn't consider a strong candidate if I was a young person in the dating market again. I wouldn't waste my time with anybody. I wouldn't take a girl on a date without first confirming that she was somehow acceptable. I wouldn't get serious without meeting her parents. Or at least knowing something about her background. You getting serious with a girl, you don't even know where she comes from and what her background is. Oh, she's wonderful. She's so gorgeous. But what is inside? Is she a strange woman? She's gorgeous, huh? Is she just a whore? She's just riding the carousel? I'm saying, a lot of people, they reform, and that's lovely and all that. But while someone is in that state, obviously, they're completely acceptable to a Christian man or woman. Again, there's the male whore doesn't really exist. That's for gay guys. Women don't need prostitutes. They don't use them because they don't have the same thing. But for a man, I almost think of it as the shark, the double dealer, the deceit, the con man, the kind of because there is a Casanova type who sweeps girls off their feet, and tells them lies and uses them and abuses them, and he can even turn them into a whore. With many fair speeches, they seduce the hearts of young girls. They know because they discover what their weaknesses are, what they want, what they want to hear, what they want to know. I never understood all that, honestly. I still don't. So I'm like, what do women want? Well, it's complicated. Right? That's all you could say about it. You could say a lot about it, but I don't want to go into that. That's too much. Too broad a category. What does this woman want, though? Just like the man, he's trying to get a gain. He's trying to take advantage of someone. When he takes advantage of a woman, this woman, she's trying to take advantage of men, of their lust. To get what they want. Women do use sex to get what they want. Not all women, of course, but there are women who certainly do that. You can even, like you ever look at some of that true crime stuff, it's loaded with all kind of, I don't know if it's loaded, but whatever. Every once in a while you'll hear the story of how she used sex to seduce and then, She lieth in wait as for a prey. It's plot, because these things get plotted. Because when you have a mentality of taking advantage of people, you've got to plan it out. And she increases the transgressors among men, because even though, she lies in wait and she does all this and seduces him, and I've always said, I think female, the way they make themselves up and make themselves hot. I mean, I understand when a woman wants to, because of the pressures, and wants to just look, I don't know. It's a weird thing, because you want to try to give some leeway, because there's nothing wrong with like putting lotion on. So you don't want to. You want to take care of yourself. You want to wash your face and put lotion on your skin so it doesn't get all dried and whatever. I mean, I don't object to things that women do to beautify themselves in general. Keep their hair nice. There is a place for that orderly beauty. When a woman orders herself but heavy makeup and clothes that accentuate the sexual. I mean? It's one thing to show beauty, but sex is a little different. I think we all understand that. It's like beautiful and sexy are different. Different. Right? A woman can be beautiful with a very light touch, especially if she is beautiful herself. And let that beauty not be the adorning, but of the inward. And that's, I do think, is that when someone is beautiful inside, even if they don't have, sometimes I've seen people with ugly faces, just to be quite frank, who life has not been kind to them and it's made them even uglier. And there are other people whose faces are clearly not ugly, but they seem attractive, are clearly ugly, but they're attractive because of their smiling and their happy-go-lucky attitude, and it just makes them more attractive people, even though they could be, like, on a certain sense, if you were going to get down to it, if you had them relax their face and just be dead, and you were just looking at this dead picture flat of this face, you can say, like, well, it's not a very attractive face. Now, I can be ugly, too. I mean, it's all about how it's all made up. But even, like I said, you don't have to be the prettiest person in the world to put a smile on your face. And some people don't have the nicest smiles. That's too bad, because it can be kind of, and I was just remembering someone say, he smiled at me and it was creepy. Okay, I get it. Well, when you smile at someone, it's kind of creepy. You got to go around just having a pleasant demeanor. And then when you smile, they'll just think like, he went from a little smile to a big smile because now he's dealing with somebody, And it's funny because I always used to criticize the Jesus movies for making him always have a smile on his face. Maybe he did. Maybe that's, maybe he did. Maybe I'm wrong about that. You scribes and Pharisees, woe to you hypocrites. How will you escape the damnation of hell? I don't know. Maybe he said it like that. That would have really scared him, though, I think. I don't know. I mean, but he could have seen it as humorous as much as it would make him angry. He that sits in the heavens will laugh. I mean, God laughs at man's defiance. It's like a joke to him. I mean, if he was given to such things, because God is not a man. But we are made in his image, so like when he talks about laughing, he knows what that means. He knows how that feels. He knows what that sort of, wow. Though he doesn't laugh because of surprise, obviously. But he understands why we laugh. I mean, obviously he made us to laugh, and we laugh. And there's some, his laughter's got to be different. Right? Because like we laugh often because of surprise, right? Though, they said, I remember there was some saying about humor is like the prelude to terror. And I thought about meditating. I was like, yeah, I guess I see that. But also to anger. Because sometimes it can be, first you joke and then you're, what? Like da-da-da-da-da-da. A lot of times we joke out of anger, too. I mean, I definitely do. I think a lot of the songs I wrote that were kind of, not exactly funny, but satirical. And maybe you could call it some comedic. But it came out of anger. No doubt. Angry about the way things are going in this world. And the way they're taking my country. Which I have, everything we do is done in our name. Thanks. Just what I wanted. To have a maniacal old man, we have a demented old man starting wars all over the world. That's exactly what, I don't know if I said it here, but I was saying, like, they think he's like this nice old man. He's a cantankerous old man. He's always cantanker. Every time someone tries to, he's cantanker, and he's getting us into war. It's insane. And Google stole it. Ever see Dr. I think it's Robert Epstein? He talked about how Google used their algorithm to manipulate the election, to manipulate undecided voters. That's a fascinating thing because, that makes them responsible for a lot of the things that have happened since then, They should probably have to pay. I mean, like literally, it should cut into their bottom line. You want Joe Biden in all his wars? Well, maybe you should pay for him, Google. Everyone, people always trying to fix things and save the world by doing evil. Because they fear not God. It's because the fear of God has left these people that they'll just do anything. There's no, they talk about morals. It's morals for you, not for me. They don't bow the knee to God. They want you to bow to them because they're God. Well, I know where that culminates. And like I said, you'll never get the stink out of your nostrils. You'll never get the stink out. Not until your nostrils burn down into the lowest hell. All the foolishness they're going to engage in. I rather hope that we're not at the end, honestly, because it's going to be bad. If it's the end. But whatever. Bad and fun, sort of, I guess. I don't know. I have faith, so I'm not too worried about it, actually, because he already prepped me. He gave me the dreams that set me at my ease. I don't fear the end times. I'd be more, that would almost be a relief if we found out we were just in the end times. Because it's like, then if it's going to go on for 40 more years, it's like, man, I got to fight. Because I will not leave the world worse off than it was when I came into it. Whatever. I won't sit idly by while that happens anyways. I mean, I can't control how the world is, but I can control what I do. You think, don't get entangled with the affairs of this life. The kingdom of God is in you, and you're walking around here, and we have something to do. Occupy till I come. What does that mean? Jesus was interfering with the temple. He's up there in front of the government, ultimately. I mean, because he was saying things that people didn't like. So they brought him up. That's going to happen. They're going to charge you. That's why they get into that words are violent stuff. That's why my song coming out on the 14th is called My Words Are Violence. Of course they are. Fear me. Fear my words. Try to silence me. Once they get me silenced on, I can't even hardly comment on YouTube on my other channel without it getting deleted. I can't speak the truth about, Gaza isn't under occupation. They don't have boots on the ground, but nothing goes in or out of that country without Israel say so. They may have taken their troops out of there in 2005, but they didn't stop controlling the place. If I blocked the doors and windows of your house and didn't let you out, would you say I had left you? Would you say I wasn't occupying your house? Oh, I'm not in your house. True enough. But I've got your street locked down. I got your doors locked down. You're not going anywhere, son. And if you leave, you ain't coming back. All right? You'd say that's not an occupation? Okay, yeah, sure. I mean, but they delete it. And I can't. Once I'm convinced my voice can't be heard online, that's why I'm gonna go on the road, man. I'm gonna take my guitar to every open mic I can find, and and it's probably gonna be more effective than the stupid internet, especially with me being censored constantly. I'm not kidding about that. It's not even a joke. I literally can't. I go back and check. Comments gone. Comments gone. Especially on this issue. And it annoys me because anyone who knows anything about me knows the Southern Poverty Law Center knows my name because I'm a tireless champion of the tribe of Judah being the Jews. Okay? I don't treat them like there's some serpentine abomination. It's like I love God's people. Even though I know we're God's people and the broken branches and all that, but still I have much love and affection for the children of Israel. Absolutely. And that's why I don't want them to commit genocide, because that will make God angry with them. Okay? Don't have any doubts about that. We all have our tests in life. Listen, I was watching a channel with the young teenagers from Israel talking about how they just want Palestinians to die. And I saw someone from Israel denying that there are churches in Gaza, denying that a mother and daughter were shot by sniper. I don't forget if they were killed, but they set up an Israeli sniper on a church. You think you support that, Christian? Think twice. Open your eyes. That's the thing, is everyone's listening to propaganda. Open your eyes. That's all these young girls talking about. It was very, I'm like, I have to feel sorry for them because they've been propagandized. They think even literally Gazan children, they're raised to kill Jews. The Christians too. There's this absurdity going on. And it's terrible. It's funny because there's been conflict over there for years, but it wasn't until October 7th that I sought the Lord in prayer and fasting over it for 27 days. I fasted 9 out of 27 days for first 5 days in a row, then like a couple of days, and finally at the end of 27 days, on the final day of the fast, the final fast day, I got a song. And it was clear to me. I was watching what they said. The Israelis. They intend to kill them all, or drive them out, or drive them into the sea. They don't care. They really don't care. If you think that's okay with the Lord, I don't think you know him. Because we become obsessed. Oh, the land is theirs. We want to fulfill the prophecy. Which prophecy are you fulfilling? Careful. Like things always get turned around. You understand? Like Jesus came in this unexpected way. Meek and lowly and on an ass. They expect him to come. It's like, you don't know what spirit you're of. A lot of people don't recognize what spirit they're of, They think God cares about land and ownership and who's got it. Didn't Jesus himself say that God seeks people to worship him? The days were coming now is when those that worship God will worship him neither in Jerusalem nor in that mountain, neither in this mountain nor yet at Jerusalem. Because God is a spirit, and those that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. All right, wait, I'm way off track here, but whatever. It's not totally off track. All right. Oh, I scrolled down way too far. All right, she lieth one way. Okay, so now we go, whatever. That's enough with the whore. Because there is another whore, the great whore of Revelation, right? And she seduces also. And she has all the merchandise of silver and gold, the precious stones and pearls, fine ointment and linens, and slaves and souls of men. Cut to the end there. Sheep and oxen and all that. Yeah. That whore also, it will be a seductive thing to come in, because like with the pandemic, I will go back to that many times. The way people all obediently did what they were told and put on the mask. I'm just saying, okay, but that was one thing, this is another. I understand that, but there's still something about it. It's a demonstration of a proof of concept of how easy it is to implement something like the mark of the beast. All you have to do is get everybody thinking there's this one universal truth, we got to fight the pandemic. And for Satan and Antichrist, it will be God has come to earth. God has come to earth. God has returned. And maybe Jesus has returned. Maybe even that, as far as that. They may even claim that he is Jesus. The Antichrist, the beast, the false prophet, whichever way that pans out. And it will be like absurd of you. The way they looked at people like, why aren't you wearing a mask? This is manifestly going to help. They literally think, we're just trying to keep you safe. I'm like, Jesus loves you. What are you talking? He's come to fix all the problems in the world. Why are you standing against this? Why aren't you getting in line? Why aren't you receiving the mark of his name? Like I said, I don't think it's going to be explicitly 666, though it could be. People are, honestly, as a sign, I could see it being like he decides, you know what, no. We're not going to be an imposter of Christ. We're going to be like a total anti instead of Christ. But the pressure is going to be so high that people will put 666 right on their foreheads, just as a sign of how they don't believe in the Bible God, but they do believe in their new Savior. I find that hard to believe because it's too much just hitting the nail right on the head. It's just way too literal for me. I could be wrong. But again, here's the thing. That's not a eventuality I particularly have to armor myself against. That's pretty, you know what I mean? Like, the reason I don't like that is because that sounds like it would create a lot of resistance. It's always more, this is for your good. We love you. We want everyone to be safe. We see now, like, how by peace shall destroy many, is what Daniel said. So, it's not necessarily he comes in brutally forcing these marks on people. People will be willingly taking them, and the pressure to do so will be high, just like with the masking. Or the vaccine. You want to go back into society? Well, you take the mark. You go back to normal? Well, just take the mark. It's no big deal. It's not even a shot. It's not even a shot. It's not even a microchip. It's not even a microchip under your skin. It's just a little marky mark. It's just a little mark. It's just a little. I just wear this mask. Take the shot. And if you think about people taking shots to keep their jobs, I mean, come on. Bow to Satan. Hey. I'm telling you. So, I wouldn't do that. I don't believe you. I don't believe you. You can show me next time. I mean, whatever. I'm just saying, I believe myself because I saw myself do it. So there we go. So I have greater confidence going into the end times because I've already experimented on that one. I see how hard it is. I don't think I'm up to it, but I know what it's going to take. So there we go. So it asks us, who hath woe, who hath sorrow? Yeah, I have a long history with alcohol, and I hate it. And this is a perfect description of all these things. Let's see. Who hath woe? It takes away your time, makes you feel like garbage the next day. And then of course, the last verse, like it says, I will seek it yet again. Oh, I need some more. That's all. It's a cycle. Always back to the beginning. And what it does to you is awful. There's just that moment. And it's captured here. Who have babbling, what are you talking about? I'm not necessarily babbling, but like, we'll go to, you start talking stuff because you lose your inhibitions. You start talking big talk about, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. You're not going to do any of that stuff. You're drunk. Who hath wounds? How did I get cut? Like I wake up with like bruises, wake up with cuts. What happened? Who knows? It's too drunk to tell. Redness of the eyes. Oh, well, there you go. They that tarry long at the wine. They go to seek mixed wine. It's wine here, but, for me, it was more beer. I had my wine drinking period when I was into wine. I hated the way I would drink this cheap Carlo Rossi wine by the gallon, and made me sick. I remember vomiting wine. I always hated vomiting wine. Ugh. I just found beer much more easy on my stomach, So look not on the beer when it is amber, when the head is fluffy and right, just right, I like that way he says, when it moveth itself aright. I can imagine looking into the wine cup and seeing the wine move. Man, I know what the temptation of alcohol is like, and when you drink down those good feelings, it's very tempting because it is one of the most best feeling drugs out there, actually. Makes you feel like dancing on the tables, as one guy said. It helps you go out and dance and have a good time a lot of times. Some people can't dance without alcohol. I certainly can. It's good to be able, you got to be able to cut loose without that. That's important. I do think. It's not in the Bible per se. I'll find some place in the Bible where it says so. Like I said, I think the verse that would actually cover that would be from Ecclesiastes. I'm going to go there for a second, just for the sake of, I just said something kind of remarkable, and I thought I should cover it. All right. See, there's this weird Ecclesiastes is a strange book in some ways. It's definitely a man's observations about life in the world. You gotta, like I said, you have to honor the Bible. Like, Ecclesiastes doesn't claim that God wrote it. It's explicitly written by Solomon, and he's talking about God, and it's not in a way that's like meant to be. It's not like "Thus saith the Lord." You know what I mean? And I always find that, like, we treat every book of the Bible, well, not we, but many people. When I hear people criticize the Bible, like the Bible, blah, 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 blah. It's like they'll say it's filled with all this ignorant, ancient superstition, blah, 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 whatever. And it's like, the Bible is not the Bible. It's 66 different books. And some of them you can group together and like, throw them and say, the law of Moses is blah, But they're like, you can't even, like, to judge the whole thing based on, it's so ridiculous. The work of dozens of people over centuries, you judge the whole thing, and most people haven't even read, they maybe start reading Genesis. They have no idea what's in the Bible. They're ignoramuses making comments about it. All right, let's just try Wicked. Maybe that'll give me what I'm looking for. 230, well, I just want Ecclesiastes, actually. So let's see, none. Do you see that window? Oh, you don't see my window. I have a window where I'm searching just the book of Ecclesiastes and just the word wicked. And we get 10, that's good enough. As I know that'll cover it. And it's a kind of an odd thing. Where is it? Oh, yeah, here. And everyone, I don't know what the commentators say about this, but to me it's like, be not overly much wicked, neither be thou foolish. Or where's that one? Oh, no, the previous one. Be not righteous over much, neither make thyself overwise. Why shouldest thou destroy thyself? Again, I don't think he's talking about the way things just don't make sense in the world. All things I've seen in my days. There's a just man that perishes in his righteousness, and a wicked man that prolongs his life in his wickedness. The ultimate thing is God has to judge the world. Is kind of the conclusion. Take up a cross to follow Jesus Christ. What I think every time things get tough. Absolutely. Amen. So I brought that up because be not over righteous, be not over wicked. It sounds weird. Like, well, I want to be righteous. I don't want to be wicked at all. I mean, I definitely don't want to be over wicked. What's this implication that I could be a little wicked? Well, every man has his faults. And so, you definitely don't want to be over wicked. Yes. And over righteous, I think it means more of like in the sense of self-righteousness, being lifted up in righteousness. But there is a part of me that like when I give certain pieces of advice, I think like I don't want to be too much of a goody-goody. As far as to the level it becomes pretentious. It becomes hypocrisy. It becomes an act. It's like, I'm not that good. I don't want to be a bad example. I don't want to, I don't want people to know, like, to think like, oh, Paul does that, so it's okay. You know what I mean? So it's like, I have to be honest, and also I have to be accountable for doing wrong. It's like, if I do wrong, I've got to do something about it. Because not because of my salvation, because judgment begins at the house of God, and I have a responsibility. He's my Lord. It's like, to me, it just seems like the most natural thing in the world. I think most people who are of the faith understand this. When you have faith, you're God's workmanship. You want to work for Him. You want to do whatever it is He wants you to do. You're ready because you know He's your Savior. He's the one, right? Pick up your cross. There's tough things to do, right? There's hard things to do and hard times to come. And that's one of the problems with alcohol is it cripples you. Everyone who's ever been through it, what a debilitating thing it is. And when you get free from it, how nice it is to just have your health back, because it really destroys your health. It really destroys your health. And over the long term, it will kill you. Kill you, absolutely. And so it is a mocker. Meaning, like in a sense of that, at first it seems like good, but in the end, it always gets you. At the last, it bites like a serpent and stings like an adder. It is deadly serious. And you do stupid things. Your inhibitions get lowered. Your eyes behold a strange woman. And your heart utters perverse things. You say, hey, babe. And you'll say, let's go back to my place and have sex. Just be quite frank. Or perverse than that. Maybe explicit. Yea, you will be as he that lieth down in the midst of the sea. Well, I'll tell you what. Once I was so drunk, I passed out in the snow. And And I might have froze to death. I don't know, except 3 girls came along and brought me back to my dorm. You know, unfortunately, they weren't strange women, so they just left me there, and they didn't, you know, there was no mischief to follow. Even though I remember uttering a lot of not perverse per se, I was hitting on them as they carried me home. Not in any weird. I'm pretty even drunk. I was pretty tame. I was, and you know, and that's probably why, you know, it was probably hard for me in some ways because I didn't early on see the problem. You know what I mean? Because it wasn't obvious. The consequences weren't as bad. I bounced back faster. I remember when I got to 30 and I realized my body just wasn't what it was. And even in my late 20s, when I threw out my back suddenly, and I always thought I was kind of invincible. I couldn't believe I was on the couch for a week and I couldn't move. I was doing this twisting motion, doing some power washing, and and then I'm done. It took me years to repair that. You know what I needed? More physical activity, less drinking and laying, and, you know, and whatever. And, well, because drinking lets you, you know, you do stupid things like take naps in the ocean and end up on the top of a mast. You know what I mean? You do. That's why I think saying you do crazy stuff. That's what I think this means. You know, right? You do crazy stuff. You should be as he that lays down in the midst of the sea. Like, why are you laying down in the ocean? That's crazy. I think that's what that means. Because let's see what it says in the NIV real quick, huh? Sometimes those interpreters give us insight. Like I said, they're very reputable scholars over there who translated that. I don't hate on the NIV, but I definitely agree with those who say that it is not a strict translation. Not strictly. Saying 10, they divided up. That's interesting. But we can do that on our own. Plus, again, that is something they've added to the text, which is fine. It can be helpful, but sometimes I'd like not to be helped. That's typical of me. When I was a little kid, when I was a baby, there's like movies of my siblings trying to help me open Christmas presents, and I used to get very angry at that. So I don't know. I've got a bad personality for that somehow. Do not gaze. Let's see. Those who linger over wine goes both milk. Do not gaze in the wine sparkles in the cup when it goes down smoothly. Yeah, I see what they're saying, and I don't mean to provoke anyone with that like kind of sympathetic noise making smoothly. I'm just saying I understand that temptation. I understand thinking about it, thinking about the feeling going into my body. I shouldn't think about it, but I know what the feeling is. And I should rather meditate on how horrible I feel the next day. And also I should meditate on how much I want to be obedient to my Lord. I want to be always sober. You know what I mean? Be sober-minded. Now, you can be sober-minded and drink a little, I suppose, like very little. You know, like I said, I do believe that this is a matter of conscience. Because even in the Lord's communion, the cup of wine was passed. But again, it's about who lingers over wine. And they drink a lot. It's getting drunk. Wine was a standard beverage back then, and it was pretty low in alcohol compared to like maybe today's 9%. But still, you could get drunk off of it. No doubt. I mean, that's what it says here. You'd have to drink a lot. But, you know, that's never been a problem for anybody. You know, who wanted to get drunk. They never had trouble drinking a lot, for the most part. I remember drinking things so disgusting it was hard to finish them. You know, sickeningly sweet liquors or wine that had gone bad a bit. You know, but I drink it anyways as a gagging because I would just to somehow get that feeling. Ugh. Free yourself. You know, or God help you, you know, let not that reign over you. We're on the top of a mast. Oh, what did we, I looked at that, but I didn't actually, let's see. You will be like one, let's see. Come on. Oh, so it says, you will be like one sleeping in the high seas, lying on the top of the rigging. Yeah, that's crazy. Like, why would you imagine sleeping on the top of the rigging of a mast of a ship? Like, you're going to fall. And that's what it's saying. It's like, this is dangerous. Sleeping on the high seas, lying on the... they put it together, and I like that. Yeah, like one sleeping on the rigging on the seas. They hit me, but I'm not hurt. They beat me, but I don't feel it. Because of the desensitization. Yeah. Also, there's another thing I would say to this. I was not sick, but wounded. Is probably because sickness and wounds are very similar ideas in the Hebrew, I guess. But anyways, the idea is what? A lot of times, this actually reminds me of Isaiah chapter 42. And I did a song on that where it says, and I'll just bring it up since I brought it up. About that, he has comforted himself with fire round about, right? And it burned him. Yet he laid it not to heart. Let me see. I always thought this verse was very, I don't know, it's tragic. Who gave Jacob for a spoil and Israel to the robbers? Did not the Lord? He against whom we have sinned, for they would not walk in his ways, neither were they obedient to his laws. Therefore he hath poured upon him the fury of his anger, and the strength of battle, and it hath set him on fire round about. Yet he knew it not, and it burned him, yet he laid it not to heart. And I would say that's also with alcohol. It's not just that you don't feel the wounds. Like I said, I got, I'd come up with bruises and bumps I didn't notice that I got. How did I get that? But also, the damage being done to your body is not obvious, and sometimes even when it is obvious, when you're too close to the issue, you don't see it. You don't see how you're falling apart. You don't see how you're being destroyed every day. It's burning you, but you don't get it. You're on fire. You don't even realize it. I think because so often people think, oh, it's no big deal. I can just keep doing this. I can drink. I got an iron stomach. I can drink everybody under the table. That's how I used to think until it ruined my stomach. In combination with Advil. Ibuprofen. I used to take that for pain. I used to take that. I drink, and then I take a bunch of, or worse than that other one, the little blue pills, the naproxen. I ruined my stomach with naproxen and ibuprofen. I used to take them together after drinking to prevent a hangover. I should have been just whatever. I shouldn't have been drinking, but whatever. There are other ways to prevent hangovers, and that's not it. Ruined my stomach. Ruined my, got some of it back, but I don't believe I have an iron stomach anymore. No, sir. I'm not invincible. This body is breakable. And you better pay it and you know what? And you need it to serve the Lord. I got to go places and do things, and I need my body to be in good shape for that. It's going to be harder. You'll say the Lord will strengthen you. Yeah. But I mean, remember the thing about jumping off the temple, how Jesus said, don't do that. You can't go through life using that psalm as your mantra. The angels are going to bear you up in their wings. Like, I'm saved, so nothing can happen to me. Nothing can happen to you as far as, you're going to be raised from the dead. But if you go out and tie one on, you get drunk, you're going to suffer consequences of that. And that's the thing. That you have to suffer consequences, because if you don't, how are you going to ever be saved from it? As I said, there got to be consequences, there's got to be punishment, there's got to be a correction. If we don't correct course, then we die. And I want to live. I want to live not just in this life. I want to live forevermore in the light of God. And that requires an even greater, we've got everything it takes for that. But my commitment, for me, at least for me, I feel myself so alien to God's kingdom that I'd like to do a lot of work to improve myself before I have to enter it. And I know I'll have a new body, and I'll be different, and I'll be like him, but the degree to which I'm not bothers me. Well, because in the scripture calls us. It calls us to do righteousness. It calls us to be obedient. I don't think anything in the scripture that says disobey with impunity. Paul says, God forbid. Should we sin the more that grace may abound? Because my evil doings, they commend God. It glorifies God because Christ's sacrifice was for me and my sins, and I'm going to be resurrected and reign with him. But if I use that wickedly to just say, then I can just do whatever I want, it doesn't matter because I believe the right things. God will not be mocked. And very few people actually think that. Though a lot of people, I think, do live that way. They live as though that was their doctrine. They don't think their doctrine. That's why I say we lie to ourselves and we hide things from ourselves. We don't see that we're living a life that is the kind of life lived by someone whose doctrine it is that they should sin more that grace may abound. You know? I feel like when some Christians, I'm like, that's a Christian, huh? Okay. If you say so. You know? Christian girl. Dressed like a whore. I don't know. Yeah. I love Jesus, though. I know she does. You know, I know she does. Lots of whores love Jesus, and that's all right. You know, I mean, I'm not better, but still, you know, I'm trying to be. You know what I mean? And so we all have to grow up and stop acting like we were still running in the same riot of excess we used to. We're not supposed to. You know, and then it's okay. If a brother be overtaken in a fault, ye which are spiritual, restore such an one in the spirit of meekness, lest thou also be tempted. Don't be overly self-righteous and full of yourself. I was going to read more of the chapter. I've only got 5 minutes left for the study. Let's just look at it. We're not reading it. Let's just start with a verse. Oh, well, but, you know, when I shall awake, I will yet seek it again. Let's see if the NIV translators thought what I thought. That'd be a quick shortcut to that. What does that mean? Well, yeah. When will I wake up so I can find another drink? Okay. They agree with me. That's how you interpret that. I do interpret it that way. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Because everyone knows that's the cycle. That's how alcoholism gets started. Thankfully something? I always would start cutting back on drinking and realizing I started to have a problem when I start drinking early. You know, I'd like start slipping it into my drink at like noon or earlier. I didn't do much. I always, for most of my times of trouble, I was a bedtime drinker and almost exclusively a bedtime drinker. Because, you know, not since I've been married anyways, because before that, yeah, I was drinking in bars and stuff, but that was, it's funny because before I was married, I turned 21 when I was engaged. So I had all this time in bars before I was of age, which is funny. It's funny how much alcohol I bought at college illegally. Anyways, but that's just that's what they do. I don't know if it's more strict now. Probably is a bit. I hope. But I mean, the truth is, your resident advisor, the guy who was supposed to be the upperclassman there looking over us, he obtained marijuana for me. He obtained alcohol for me. You know? So what? There's so much for your student advisor. You know, the student advisor for your kids is the one who's going to buy them. They weren't all like that, by the way. I know the one on the floor above us was definitely not like that, because when he smelled us smoking weed, he came down and I think it was all he could do to restrain himself from calling the cops. So, yeah, they weren't all that way. And I'm glad. Of course, the person in charge that we had to go to ultimately was very sympathetic to our side of things, so we didn't get in any trouble at all. Not even a little. We were terrified, though, at the time. I remember we took all of our stuff, we threw it away. That was like a very sad moment for us at the time. Sympathetic. Anyways, I remember when I got off drugs, and I remember how much I was like, I love being sober. I finally realized what it was like to be normal again. And what I realized is, like, the drugs weren't even doing anything for me anymore. They were mostly just helping me feel normal, which is what I really only wanted. It's a weird thing. What is normal, right? Normal? I don't know. Because, like, it depends on when you are. There's a time for every purpose under heaven. There's no normal. You know what I mean? Normal? What's normal? What is normal? You know, normal. The norm? Neither cold nor hot? Neither bond nor free? What you know what I mean? Is it somewhere in the middle? I don't know. You know, return to normalcy. Normal is relative, I would say. It's relative to what you've been living. I don't think we're ever going back. You never do go back, right? You know, in the 80s and 70s, people were longing for the 50s, whatever. Maybe they still are. Some people were, right? back in the day. Things have changed. The good old days. There's always someone looking back and wishing for... there are some things, though, it's not the times I want back, but I will insist on my rights. I'm not saying I want them back. I have them. I insist on them. I use them. They're being violated, but no one takes them from me. I will never stop speaking freely. I will say, I was about to utter a profanity in that direction, as far as a defiant profanity towards those who would shut me up. You can leave my studies, whatever. You can take me off the internet. I will go into the streets and towns. I will. I swear, when they take me off the internet, if they ban me from my music from being published, and I'm just going to go everywhere I have to go. That's it. And that's probably what ends up happening anyway. So, what, you think Satan's going to let us keep doing this? Right? He's going to let me keep talking, right? Oh, yeah, sure. That's what's got to happen. We got to go out 2 by 2 like they did in the old times. That's what the two witnesses represent. It's 2 by 2s all over the place. That's what I believe. I'm not one of the... I don't believe the two witnesses are just two individuals. They're two symbolic individuals of a great movement of Christians of the true church. They are the two candlesticks. They are not two stars. That's very important. Because if they were two stars, then they would be like Moses and Elijah, Paul Stringini and his bro, whatever. Stars. No, there will be no stars. There will only be candlesticks, The Lord, because the Lord doesn't like those people, those stars. He likes people like me, people that don't rob his people that teach his word faithfully. He likes me. I know he likes me because he's very favorable to me. He's even shown me his power. So what? That's why, because you got to be faithful. Those people, they will lead their congregations straight to hell. They haven't, of course, there's always a few names. You have a few names even in Sardis, but they will lead many people. And God is not pleased. Oh, no. What verse was I? I was on the next verse. Oh, yeah. I will yet seek it again. And a lot of sin is like that, isn't it true? The cycle of pornography addiction, as long as it's going back. Not always, but we get caught in this loop where this thing hurts us. It hurts us. And we go back to it. Because it offers something else. It's always, like, the thing is, for me, I don't have a magic button that I can tell you. Like people would come to me, one of the most frequently asked questions I've ever had, not on this channel so much, but on my website is, how do I get my loved one to stop listening to Arnold Murray and to hear the truth? And it's like, if I had a magic button I could press and tell you, all right, here's the phrase, like, I'm just making up words like there was some script you could read. You know what I mean? Like, okay, here we go. We're going to convert you. So what is a Kenite? That's the first question. And I lead them through a series of questions. And I got some sort of formula that gets them out of it. Don't got anything. Same thing with this. Well, I do have something. Well, I don't have anything like that. I don't have like a piece of paper I can hand you and say, here, read this to your loved one, and they will turn from their wicked ways. They will turn from their false teachings. I don't have anything like that. But prayer, fasting, anoint yourself to preach to them. I don't know, get someone to anoint you. Because there are things that can be done in the Spirit. And you should exhaust those avenues. Just pray. Ask them if you can lay your hands on them and pray for them. You know what I mean? And make the prayer, don't make it offensive to them. So that we could all, like I said, I want all of our eyes to be open to the truth. We all need to have, I want God to open my eyes to the truth in a new and better way so I could see it more clearly. And if you don't think that you need that, you have a problem, because we all need that. We all see through a glass darkly. We don't understand everything that shall be, certainly. Some things we understand. Some things are very cut and dry. And so we know that the judgment of God is sure concerning those that should do certain things. We know that. But we don't judge. We're not condemning people. And that's what I mean by condemn, it means really to bring in guilty. I mean, to hold them accountable for their sins. Not me personally. The government, according to Paul, has a role there, because there are some things that society cannot tolerate. We cannot have open thievery, People are going to be punished for those things. They're going, like it says, he will restore it, what he's, sevenfold or whatever it was. He used to make them, penalize them by making them pay back, and more so, in a way to deter it. How that works out, whatever. What do you think about the excluded books of the Bible? Well, I did a thing about that, a study on my website, oraclesofgod.org, and pseudepigrapha and apocrypha, because there's different books that aren't in the Bible. There's some that are considered, like for example, you have in the Catholic Bible, you have the apocrypha, which includes like certain books like the Maccabees and Ecclesiasticus and the Jubilees, and I'm not sure if that's actually part of the Catholic version of the apocrypha. The thing is, we have so much to study in the Bible itself. Here's the thing that I feel, I have not really exhausted this. And I've read the Apocrypha years ago, and I don't really remember much, except this. I find nothing particularly contradictory or earth-shatteringly different, or particularly necessary. Some of the books, like the Maccabees, are very historical and not particularly, they read like an extension of Ezra and Nehemiah. They're not like the same. That's what I'd say. There's a lot of books that don't go into the proper Bible. In the New Testament, there were other Gospels. Many of them aren't included because the provenance is, they were known forgeries. That's part of it. And the apocryphal books, they came from this intertestamental period. And one of the reasons I think they were excluded, I could take someday I want to take a deep dive on the Apocrypha. We will probably study it on this channel eventually. If the Lord gives me time, we will get to the Apocrypha. But I would prefer to get to the entire Bible first. I said we will get to the Apocrypha, but I'm not sure about that. It's in my heart to get it. Let me put it that way. Because the Apocrypha, I don't view the same way as I view the pseudepigrapha. The pseudepigrapha literally means under a false name, which means, and some people suggest Peter was pseudepigraphal, but I tend to think it was more of a, I don't know. I like the book of Peter, so I don't dismiss it. It's like if it was written, I think it may be the attribution. It's not like the Gospels, because Peter says in the letter Peter. And it may have been Peter. And it's just that, late in his life, and they said, Peter couldn't write. Peter didn't need to write. They had people who write. Scribes. People write you down. Peter didn't have to write a word. Some people think that the Gospel of Mark is actually the Gospel of Peter. Whatever. I don't know what that means. Well, I know what it means. It means kind of, I don't know the provenance of that. So the pseudepigrapha in the New Testament, a lot of that stuff, I have read some of those Gospels, and I like I said for years, they just have a false gospel feeling to them. They don't come out right. And some of the things they have Jesus saying, I'm like, that doesn't seem to me like, it seems almost like word salad. Like it doesn't seem to have that same weight that the words of Jesus do. And they do contain often some things that are from the Gospels, but then they add in things that are contradictory to what we know. And that's why they were left out, is because they actually doctrinally depart from the doctrine of the apostles as we understand it. And as it was understood at the time. That's another thing, is that the Christian church was in existence during the time of the assembly of the New Testament. And so when these new books would show up, attributed to dubious authors and also contradicting things which they had already learned, it was very easy to dismiss these as forgeries. And that's how, as far as the New Testament books, I think that's pretty much the story. The Old Testament, there are some things that are not necessarily forgeries. They're just other books that people wrote. I mean, like the Essenes, they have their prayer texts and stuff like the Dead Sea Scrolls and all that. And a lot of that stuff just doesn't include it. There was a lot of ancient writing that didn't make it into the Bible. And you look at a book like, for example, like Esther, it's not even clear. Like you could see, I could see that being in the Apocrypha. You know what I mean? Because it's so doesn't even mention the name of Yahweh. It's present in like an acrostic. And so, I don't know what to make of it beyond that. Anyways, it's a nice story. But you could see, like I said, you could see it being left out because it doesn't add much to it. And that's what I would say about the Apocrypha in general. It just doesn't add much to the Bible. There's so much wisdom already in it. And you think about how much times like Proverbs will repeat itself. And it's like, yeah. And so I guess those books just, they increase the size of the Bible without increasing the weight of it, I would say. So that's that. Well, we're out of time. Thanks for that question. I really appreciate it. I appreciate everyone who watches. And as far as like, I'm here to do this because people want to listen. And thank you for listening. I hope it is beneficial to you. I'm sure it must be, otherwise you wouldn't be here. Okay, well, thanks for joining me. Look forward to next time. Remember, the testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy.
But they rebelled and vexed his Holy Spirit. Therefore he was turned to be their enemy.
By the way, yes, someone should consider reading them. Read anything you like. Consider it anyways. Don't read pornography, though. That's just about everything.
Where is he that brought them up out of the sea with the shepherd of his flock? Where is he that put his Holy Spirit in him?